اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، سيما بقية الله الأعظم روحي وأرواح العالمين الله الفداء. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. One of the reasons that people do not understand life or have a misconception of life or have the wrong idea of life is because of death, because of maut, an eventuality that we all have to face, and because of the fact that it looms so large in front of us, because it is so big in our life, it's such an important occasion in our life that the fear of death and the idea of death creates a misconception of life. And hence, we do not understand what life is. We don't understand what the idea of living is. We are just living, or we are just existing to avoid death, or to run away from death, or to prepare for death. However you want to look at it, most of us are not living life. We are just trying to avoid death. If again, we went through the idea of life the last 8 days, 9 days that we have been speaking, the importance of life, the importance that it is an opportunity, it is a blessing, and we need to learn how to live it correctly and take the best advantage of it. But what happens is that when you have the wrong idea of life, you never live it. You never use it to the best of your ability. It's like, for example, you take something that has so much usage and you use it for the wrong reason, meaning that you use it the way either it shouldn't be used or in a way that completely goes against its nature. For example, let's say that you get a cell phone, a brand new cell phone you buy, the latest model, and you give it to your kid because when you went to T-Mobile, it was buy one, get one free. So you bought one and the extra one was free. So you gave it to your kid. Now the kid is not old enough to know what to do with it. So what does he do? He starts to play football with it. Now tell me, this phone, which is used for a specific reason or has such broad usages, and here you have your son who's using it like a football and throwing it around the house. How would you feel it? So the idea is most of us are treating life like that. We don't know what to do with it. We have no clue how to live it, and hence we are just playing around with it. And truly, it is a complete misusage of something that is so precious. And that's what we want to learn. And one of the things that creates a misconception about life, gives us a wrong idea in our mind regarding our life, is death. And when you look at death, death is something that is a reality that we all have to face. Everyone knows that. And because they know, and they know that it is an important event in our life, if you look at all the events of your life, right? All the things, let's say, that you make a timeline of all the important occasions of your life. Birth, the first tooth, the first step, and then school, kindergarten, growing up, high school diploma, right? College graduation, marriage, and I don't know, the first 100,000. Right? And then, you go forward, whatever it is, right? And then, after that, the first day you learned about your high blood pressure. It's an important occasion because that changed your life forever now. Now you have to take pills every day, right? Or diabetes or whatever it is, the first heart attack, the first this, child, all these things, right? These are your timeline. Now tell me, of all these things that are in your timeline, which is the most important that overshadows everything? Isn't it death? Case closed? It's time for the hammer to fall. That's it, right? It's over. All of that ends. And when that happens, all that book and all that timeline is finished. Your Facebook account is closed. Right? No more tweets. It's over, right? It's finished. Imagine this. It's so important. It's so large. It overshadows everything in our life. And because of the fact that it overshadows everything in our life, we don't want to face it. We don't want to really. All we are doing in our life is trying to run away from it, escape it, trying to see how we can avoid it. If someone can give you, if some oil salesman, snake oil salesman comes and gives you the recipe of avoiding debt, how many of us are willing to spend some money to try it? Really? Yes, you take this, drink this, or put this on your arm or neck, it'll protect you from death. Yeah, it happened, You see, religious people and all these people, right? You will see that they will run after it. In the Battle of Jamal, which was on one hand, you had all these, great companions and all these great people on one side. And on the other side, you had Imam Ali, right? Salawat Allah. And these people obviously knew that Imam Ali is brave and he's strong and he's a great warrior, skilled warrior. Anyone who comes in front of Imam Ali dies. No one can stand in front of him. And the strange thing is that until that day, Imam Ali always fought non-Muslims. He was on their side. So everyone was like, we have Ali. Right? They were all proud of Imam Ali. We have Ali, man. Anything happens, he's going to save us, this and that. Now, this was the first day in history that Imam Ali stood against them. He's on the other side now, right? It's strange that the guy who used to bring you victory all the time is now standing against you. So now when they saw that and they knew what Imam Ali could do in the battlefield, the warrior that he was, that he could easily dispatch anyone from the battlefield and that will be it for him. So what happened, the fear in the army was there. Now to counter that fear, to boost their morale, they had the camel. That's why it's called the Battle of Jamal, because there was a camel, and the lady used to sit on the camel. So now what happened is that the holy men or the ulama of that camp spread a rumor and said that whoever keeps the excretion of the camel in their pocket will be saved from Imam Ali's sword. And as soon as people heard that, there would be a group of people waiting for it to come down. And when it comes down, they will jump on it and fight for it. Why? Because they are afraid of death. So much that their whole life is just about protecting myself from death. Most people do not live their life. They're just living to avoid death, because death is such an important occasion in our life. And until we don't have the correct understanding of death, we will never have the right understanding of life. The understanding of life depends on the understanding of death. There's no way to avoid it. You have to know life through death. Whenever Allah speaks of life, He mentions death with it. Why is He mentioning death all the time when He mentions life? Read the Quran. Al-Maut wal-Hayat. Al-Hayat wal-Maut. Every time, every ayat, you see that death and life are being spoken together by Allah. It's not because of rhyme, or that Allah is trying to rhyme these things together. It's not because of that. My friends, the reason is that the understanding of one depends on the understanding of the other. The reason Allah mentions death with life is that you cannot understand death until you understand life. And you cannot understand life until you don't understand death. You need to understand what maut is in order to understand what hayat is. What does it mean to live? What is the idea of living is understood by understanding what death is. And because of the fact that people don't understand what death is, they haven't understood life. So I can guarantee that most people in the world do not even know how to live. They don't know how to live. They are just going through life. And that's why the misery, that's why the negativity, that's why the frustration, that's why the pain. All of these things are because we don't understand life and we haven't lived our life. And if we understood life, then we would live it much better. And to understand it, we need to know what is death. That's the important aspect here, understanding what death is. People who understand death have a different concept of life. They see life differently because they know what is death. They know what it is. Because I'm not going to take that much time, right? Because, we want to also go to the commemoration of tonight. So that's why I don't want to take too much time here. I just want to introduce this topic so where we are going with this. All right, our topic is still life. But to understand life, I need to know what is death. And if I have the wrong idea of death, then you know what? My whole concept of life is ruined. For most people, really, death is the ending of life. Death is the ending of life. And if you think that, and if you somewhat believe in that, if you think that that is true somehow, that life is going to finish, and I assure you, even people who believe in the hereafter do not believe of life after death. As a Muslim, we all believe in akhirat, right? We all know that. It's in the Quran. We testify to it. We know that. But we don't believe that there's a life after death. There is an akhirat. What have you thought so far regarding that life? What is your idea about it? Is it there? You know, for example, I mean, really, we work for our retirement. How much do we think about it? About our retirement, making sure that we are safe, you know? I mean, what if, let's say, I'm saying, right, a lot of people depend on Social Security. Social Security, right? Social Security is there, so you know what? I'm going to get my share and I'll be okay, this and that. What if Donald Trump is elected again? The next thing on their agenda is to get rid of Social Security altogether. That whole program that was started by FDR, it wasn't in the history of America. It was started in the 30s, to get out of depression. And so the idea is that let's end all of this. Who said that we should be giving out charities, even to elders? What if it's finished? Then what? Now everyone's scared. Let's all go out and vote for the other side, whoever it is. Right? But the fact that happened is true. I mean, really, how much are we planning for our hereafter? A lot of people depend on that. What if that wasn't there? Before that, you remember back home in India, Pakistan, in those places, there was no such thing as Social Security, so you used to depend on your children. Right? You want to make sure that they are settled down so that when they are settled down, they can take care of us when we're old. That's what used to be our plan for our retirement. And people used to work hard to make sure that their children are settled down. And now what happened? But what we do pay attention to hereafter, how many of us in our life have given a 5-minute thought about my life after death? Have we tried to think about it? How is it going to be? How do I want to be there? What kind of life do I like to have there? You see, we all say there's a hereafter because we believe in Allah, la ilaha illallah, we believe in Allah. We all know it's there, but we still haven't believed in it yet, that it's there. For most of us, death is the ending of life. And if that is the case, then you know what? The whole concept of life is incorrect. The way you're living your life is wrong. It will be completely wrong. Inshallah, I will go more into that. But let's talk about life itself. Someone who understood death, is someone who understands life. Just keep that in mind and we'll go forward from tomorrow. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala All right, I'm going to come to the life of Hazrat Khadija as we want to talk about her, and I want to bring her into the topic and link her to our discussion. First of all, if all of us know who she is. Bibi Khadija was the wife of the Prophet, first person to accept Islam, first person to become a believer, first one to support the Prophet. When no one wanted to support the Prophet, she was there to support the Prophet. When everyone turned their back and said that this person is crazy, she was the one defending him. Even though it made it made her lose her reputation. Khadija was not just a normal, ordinary person. She was one of the richest persons in that part of the world. Everyone had respect for her. Everyone knew her. When she goes anywhere, for example, it is like that, right? When, for example, if a poor person goes to the restaurant, right, he has to pay for his food. When a rich person comes, the owner is like, oh, for you it's free. Because he's ultra rich. We just want you to be here, And we'll take a picture of you and put it on the wall so that others can see that you came and you honored us. That was her status. Her status amongst people was that if she comes to your house, it means that, wow, she came to our house. She blessed her with her presence. That was her reputation. It's not easy. Not anyone can have that. She was capable of it. She deserved it because she was a smart, intelligent, and amazing personality. When you look at how she was and the way she was, and the way she gave importance to the things that should be given importance to, you found that amazing how she was, Khadija was. And I want you to see that. One, who was this person and what did she sacrifice? And when the Prophet came into her life, when the Prophet came into her life, he used to work for her, but the question of marriage wasn't there. She had a liking for him, but this hadith history I found from Ammar Yasir. You know Ammar Yasir is, right? He's one of the great companions of the Prophet from the early history of Islam, right? The son of the first two martyrs of Islam, Ammar Yasir. Ammar Yasir says that I know more about how the Prophet met his wife Khadija than anyone else because I was friend with both of them. I was a friend with both of them at that time. And it was Khadija and her sister Hala. Her sister Hala. These two, they told me that your friend Muhammad, right, Hala told me that your friend Muhammad, isn't he interested in my sister? Isn't he interested in my sister? Go and speak with him. So I went and talked to the Prophet. I went and spoke with him. And I told him that there is this, person, who is, interested if you want to make a proposal. So the Prophet, he told Ammar Yasir that if such is the case, then why don't you set a date with her that I can come and meet her for this purpose. He used to meet her for business, but for this purpose, no. He never met her. He says, why don't you set a date so that I can come and meet Lady Khadija? And so he said on that day, Khadija invited her uncle, right? Amr ibn Asad. She invited her uncle because her uncle was the patron of the house, the elder of the house. She invited him to come over to be the host and host the Prophet and all that. So on that day, you see that the Prophet came with a group, an entourage that was headed by Abu Talib. And so the history goes on. I'm not going to go into history, but I'm saying that this Khadija, you see, from the minute that she saw the Prophet, she knew that he was special. And she had these discussions with her uncle, who used to be a scholar, and other scholars of Jewish background. She used to have discussions with them, and she had discussions regarding the Prophet, regarding his character, and they all testified that he is special. He is someone that is unique. He is someone that is great. From that point onwards, Khadija gave everything for Rasulullah. She gave up everything for Rasulullah. It didn't matter. The money was the first thing. I mean, we talk about she gave money. You know when she gave the money to the Prophet? Before she got married. Not after she got married. Because when they talked about marriage, she asked the Prophet, what kind of a woman are you looking for? A wife are you looking for? So the Prophet said, I'm looking for someone who is equal to me in status or less, meaning that she should not be richer than me. She should not have more money than me. And Khadija know that if that's a criteria, then I'm not going to get married to him. So as he said this, the first thing that Khadija said, that I give everything that I own over to you. Everything I have right now, I just give it over to you. Now tell me. You see, then and they got married. So all the wealth that Khadija had now belonged to Rasulullah. And she gave the wasiyat also. She said, listen, I give all this wealth to you. The only thing that I want you to take care of that is important for me is this boy, Zayd. Zayd was a slave that she had, a young boy that she had, and she was concerned about him. And she told Rasulullah, I just want you to take care of him because I raised him as my son, like my son. And Rasulullah said, don't worry, he will be a part of me. Right? And this is something that she did. I mean, so the money was never the factor. Now it belonged to Rasulullah. Never belonged to Khadija. But you know what she gave up after that? Really, she gave up the reputation, the honor, the name that she carried, the persona that she had in the society. You see, it came to such an extent that people even refused to greet her, even refused to talk to her. Can any of you ladies imagine that you come to the masjid and everyone turns their back on you? Now, I mean, in our masjid, I mean, not just in our masjid, every masjid, right? The idea that I have seen is that you're not only not insulted, but if someone gives you a little bit less respect than usual, they say, I'll never come back to this masjid again. You're ready to fight Allah and get over it. And Imam, I don't care about you all, this and that. Why? Because they disrespected me, and that's it. Whoa, take it easy. Take it easy. Look what they did to Khadija. They refused to even talk to her. She would go and to talk to people that she knew all her life. She went to talk to people who knew all her life. And what happened? They would turn their backs and walk away. They turn their back and walk away. We don't even want to socialize with you. And she lived with that. Can you believe it? And friends, this is it. This is, when you look at that, then, nothing else mattered. She was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She was smiling. She was smiling. She never let Rasulullah know that there's a problem, that she's sacrificing something. She never let him know that. Can you believe it? She never complained that, oh, people are saying these things to me. She kept it inside of herself. She would always smile in front of Rasulullah. No matter what happened, she would be there and say, don't worry, everything is fine. And that's why you see Rasulullah knew what was going on. It came down to such an extent that they said that when they were in the embargo, they were in that 3 years of being boycotted, and there was scarcity of food, and she would be the first one not to eat. She would make sure that others got their food, that everyone else, she was the host, everyone else. You see, the host is always the last to eat. You see that? Even in a masjid, for example, whoever brings the sponsor, you don't see him, at the beginning of the line, let me get my food and sit down. as a host, you want to make sure that everyone else gets it. Khadija was the host for 3 years. She would be the last one to eat. And she would always be smiling. And Rasulullah knew what she was going through. He knew, but she never let Rasulullah feel the pressure. It became clear through her physical attributes that she was going through pain. You know, when someone is hungry all the time and you see that if you don't get enough nourishment, then the body naturally starts to eat its own flesh. And that's why you start becoming thinner and thinner. Her physical attribute was now showing that she was malnutritioned. And people were seeing that her eyes are bulging out of her sockets. And her arms were down, her arms and legs were so skinny they were down to their bones. She had gone through, for 3 years, she is the last one to eat. She's making sure that everyone got their food. And she's the last one to eat. And Rasulullah sees this in his wife. How much can he encourage her to eat? There's nothing to offer. There's nothing to offer. But she doesn't want to put any pressure on Rasulullah. She doesn't want to put any pressure on Rasulullah. She doesn't want to even say it. Even with all that she's going through, she's still smiling. And she will not tell anything to Rasulullah until the last day that came. You see, the last day that came, she knew that, it will be hard for Rasulullah. She knew that it will be hard for her husband. So she just kept to herself. She spoke to Rasulullah. She gave her wasiyat, a little bit wasiyat to Rasulullah. She doesn't have anything anymore. It's all finished. Everything is gone. She's lying on her deathbed. And she wants to ask Rasulullah of something. But she knows that if she asks Rasulullah, it will be hard for him. She made it a habit that I don't want to put pressure on him by asking him for something. It will make him go under pressure, and I don't want to put any pressure on the Prophet, any pressure on my husband. She did not put pressure. You know what she did? She told Rasulullah that on the last moments of her life, she told Rasulullah that if you can give me a moment with my daughter Fatima, I want to give my last wasiyah to her. I want to give my last wasiyah to Fatima. Just give me one moment with her. Rasulullah left Fatima with her mother and walked away. And then when Fatima was alone with Khadija, she told Fatima that, Fatima, I don't want to ask of your father because he's going to go through difficulties. But Fatima, can you do one thing for me? Go and ask your father that when I die, go and ask your father, I don't need a shroud or anything. I just want him, if he can give me the abba that he's wearing when he used to receive the revelation, when ayat used to come down, that abba that he used to wear at that time, if he can gift that to me. I cannot ask him myself. If you can go and ask him. It was Fatima who went to her father and said, this is what mother wants. Rasulullah gave her the abba. He shrouded her with the abba and he put that and buried her like that. But you know what? There's one place I see that there is a body, but there is no coffin or shroud on that body. There's one place in history I see that there is a body, but there is no shroud on that body. There is no cover on that body. The body is just covered by arrows. The body is just covered by injuries and wounds. Ya Aba Abdullah, Hussein, when he was in Karbala, and Zainab, as she went by Hussein, she saw the body of Hussein lying there. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا محمود بحق محمد، يا الله بحق علي، يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة، يا حسين بحق حسن، يا قديم الحسن بحق حسين. Allah, give us the tawfiq to be on the right path. Give us the wisdom to understand your guidance. Hasten the reappearance of our Imam. Make us his helper when he comes. Wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Ya
اللهم صل على